Today's lesson is called Representing Ratios with Diagrams. Today you will draw a diagram or diagrams that represent a ratio and explain what that diagram means. Let's jump right into it. Here is a collection of snap cubes. We're going to draw a picture that represents the ratio of yellow to pink cubes. So the very first thing I need to know is about the yellow cubes because they were mentioned first. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to count them. Let's grab a different color here so you can see it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 yellow cubes, right? And for the pink cubes, I'm going to zoom in and do that next. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 pink cubes. I'll write that underneath. So we would say that the ratio is 5:2:3, or I could write 5:3. But if it's specifically asking me to draw a picture, then I'm going to redraw those towers, those snap cube towers, right next to each other, but just those colors, right? So let's see, I have yellow, so I'm going to draw that as 1, 2, 3. Let's actually draw them together. I need 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll put one more in there. 5. All right. And I'm going to write in there Y, 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 Y. Sometimes it's tricky for me to actually see the yellow pen, so this will help you see them as well. So it says yellow to pink, so I drew my yellow. Now I'm going to draw my pink, and there were 3 pink ones. So I'm going to make sure it's just as tall as the 3 yellow. And then P, P, P. That's all it's asking for. Draw a picture that represents the ratio of yellow to pink. So in the picture, there's also green, blue, black, and red. But when I draw the picture, I didn't need those colors because the directions just said yellow to pink. Okay. Today, Elena is mixing paint. Specifically, she's mixing 2 cups of white paint with 6 tablespoons of blue paint. Down below is a picture of what she did. So up on top, there are 1, 2 cups. And on the bottom, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tablespoons. You might also notice that these blue squares that represent the tablespoons are small. And the white squares that represent the cups are large. That's because cups are much bigger than tablespoons. So when she's mixing the paint, she uses 2 cups of white, right? And although the number is 2, it's actually a lot of white paint that she's using. Okay, we are going to use this picture, and we are going to try to match some statements to this picture to see if that statement is true or false. Right, so that's over here. If it's true or if it's false. So the very first statement says the ratio of cups of white paint to tablespoons of blue paint is 2 to 6. Remember those 2 dots for the colon means TO, 2 to 6. Okay, so the first thing that's mentioned is the white paint, and the first number that's mentioned is 2. So I'm going to look down at the white paint and say check. There are 1, 2, so check. So far, this is correct. Now I'm going to look after the word 2. I'm going to put a blue box. Now let's grab a different color. I'm going to grab a red box and put that around the 2, put that around this 2 and the colon. So after or next, it says tablespoons of blue paint, and after the other 2, it says 6. So I did this on the last page, but I'm going to do it again. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tablespoons of blue. So that's a check. This statement must be true. We're going to use the same picture for the next statement. Statement B says, for every cup of white paint, there are 2 tablespoons of blue paint. So you might notice that this is already kind of separated here. If I put a box around each, I can see that I make 2 equal groups. And each group has 1 white and 1, 2, 3 blue. On the right, you can see 1 white and 1, 2, 3 blue. Let's look back at the sentence. For every cup of white, so because there's no S, I know that's 1. For every 1 cup of white paint, there are 2 tablespoons of blue paint. This can't be true because we just numbered the blue. It's 3. There are 3 blue, so I'm going to write false for this one. All right, let's look at statement C. There is 1 cup of white paint for every 3 tablespoons of blue paint. This one we know is true. It's the same picture that we just drew. The only thing that's different is right here. It says 3 tablespoons of blue paint, not 2. So if we look at this again, there are 1, 2, 3 blues in the same box with that 1 white. There are 1, 2, 3 blues in the right box with that 1. So this is a true statement. What about D? What do you think for this one? The statement says there are 3 tablespoons of blue paint for every cup of white paint. True or false? Okay, so I'm going to separate this picture. So instead of thinking about this as 6 tablespoons, I'm going to think about this as 3 tablespoons. So here's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to make my line. Hey, this looks similar to what we've done in the last 2. Every time we have 3 tablespoons of blue, that's what this is saying here. Every time we have 3 tablespoons of blue, it says we should have 1 cup of white. And again, I know it's 1 because it says cup, and cup is singular. So that means 1 cup of white. This is what's happening in our picture. Whoops. So this is a true statement. All right. Every time we have 3 tablespoons of blue, there is also 1 cup of white. All right, we're doing great. Let's keep on going. What about this one? Is this one true or false? For each tablespoon of blue paint, there are 3 cups of white paint. All right, I think they're being kind of tricky here. This one says, for each tablespoon of blue paint. So again, notice there's no S here. So this means 1 tablespoon of blue paint. So if I split the tablespoons of blue paint apart, every time I have 1, it says that I should have, so here's 1, so you can see the groups of 1 blue. Every time I have 1, it says there are 3 cups of white paint. Well, that doesn't look true at all. Here's what goes with that 1 blue. Here's what goes with that second blue. Here's what goes with that third one. Like, this is part of a cup. It's not 3 whole cups, all right, of white. This can't be true. This must be false. Every time we have 1 cup of blue paint, we get way less than 1 cup of white paint. Not anywhere close to 3 cups of white. Okay, F. For every 6 tablespoons of blue paint, there are 2 cups of white paint. All right, 2 cups of white, 6 tablespoons of blue. What do you think, true or false? Okay, this one says 6 tablespoons of blue. So I'm going to make 6 tablespoons of blue. This is my whole group. Hey, look at that. When I get to 6 tablespoons of blue, I can see right above that there are 2 cups of white paint. This is true. All right, G. This is our last one. True or false? The ratio of tablespoons of blue paint to cups of white paint is 6 to 2. True or false? All right, I'm going to put a box around the word TO. There it is, and a second time. So I can see that blue came before the first one. Here it is, blue. That means this word in front of the TO must also mean blue. So that means 6 blue. And I haven't changed the picture, but here they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Check, that's right. So then if I look after the TO, I can see cups of white paint. If I look after the TO, I can see the number 2. There are 2 cups of white. Both of those things are true, so this statement is true. Lots of true statements here. Here they are all together. Right? So we had 2 false statements. B and E were false. But what this means is everything left over, statement A, C, D, F, G, all of those ways of saying it, all of those statements, although they're written differently, make the same diagram, the same picture down below, right? So these are equivalent statements. These statements all make the same ratio. All right, for this one, we're asked to draw a diagram and then write 2 sentences describing that ratio. Jada mixes 8 cups of flour with 2 pints of water to make paste for an art project. We're going to draw a diagram, but before I draw, I better reread it. Jada mixed 8 cups of flour with 2 pints of water to make paste for an art project. Okay, so I'm going to draw the flour first. I'm going to write flour. She had 8 cups, so I'm going to draw 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so that's her flour. To make paste, she also used water. She used 2 pints of water. If you don't know which one is bigger, it's okay. You can just kind of draw them roughly the same size, but I'm going to draw a different shape. 2 pints of water. So she had a pint 1 and a pint 2. All right, actually, let me just copy this. Make them exactly the same. There we go. All right. This is how she made the paste. She used 8 flour. She used 2 water. Using this diagram, we're going to write 2 sentences describing the ratio of flour to water. So the first thing mentioned says ratio of flour. So I can see that there are 8 squares. So I'm going to write 8 cups of flour. Then comes the word TO. 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 After that TO, it says water. So I'm going to go back to my picture. It was 2 water. This is a really good first sentence. I also want you to see the direction. I'm going to highlight it here. It says you should use different numbers for each sentence. So I'm not going to rewrite it exactly the same for the bottom. Even though for the bottom it starts the same. The ratio of flour to water, right? They didn't change the order, right? I need to see this differently. So what I'm trying to do is to divide this into equal groups. Because there are 2 water pictures, I'm going to try to divide this in half. If I put a line here, I can see it's 1 water and 3 flour. It's 1 water and 5 flour. That's not equal. I need to make them equal. So I'm going to move the line over and say, whoops, kind of missed there, and say 1 water and 4 flour. 1 water and 4 more flour. These are equal groups. So this is a correct way to also interpret the ratio. when I look at sentence number 2, it says the ratio of flour, let's grab that color again, purple, the ratio of flour came first. So if I look at the flour that's on top, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to write 4, the ratio of flour. So then 4 comes first. Flour to water. So now I'm going to look at the water. Here it is second. So in that same group, there's only 1 water. So I'm going to write 1. The ratio of flour to water is 4 cups of flour to 1 pint of water. And you might notice here that I don't really need this S, so I'm just going to cross it out because it's only 1. All right, it is almost time for you to head into Desmos. When you get there, something you're going to be asked to do is a card sort about spaghetti sauce. It's kind of tricky if you don't know what each thing represents, right? So a circle represents a cup of tomato sauce. Here's kind of how I remembered it as I was doing it. You can see that tomato sauce right here is in like a circular bowl. So you can imagine that the circle, when you see it, is filled with red and it's a bowl of sauce on the table. Right? And then a square represents a tablespoon of oil. The oil is in that square. Right? And you won't have very many of them, but some of them will also talk about oregano. It's a really awesome green herb that makes sauce taste delicious. All right. So if you see the triangle, that means oregano. All right. I want you to head into Desmos, give it your best shot. If you get stuck, if it gets tricky, come to the help desk. I'll help you out.